What's up, guys? So in this episode, we're going to finish stripping down the frame and then get the Crown Vic mounted up. I did have some issues with my camera, so unfortunately I wasn't able to film everything, and it kind of ruined my plans for these videos because I was trying to make these sort of instructional, and I wasn't able to get footage of me taking all the measurements to mount the Crown Vic tubes, but there are a lot of videos out there that kind of go over that. And I also don't have a lot of footage of installing the Crown Vic, but I'm going to show you guys what I was able to get, and hopefully it'll help you. Alright guys, so my camera ran out of storage while I was cutting out the pieces of the cross member left in the frame. Basically, I just used a grinder and a sawzall, and mostly sawzall, and I was able to chop that out. It took about 5 sawzall blades, and then I also used a big hammer just to smack it around, and I was able to break a couple of the welds, so that saved me a bunch of time with the sawzall. I'm going to start degreasing the frame now. I had an oil leak, and that is just absolutely covered, and I had a power steering leak on this side, so this is pretty gross. This side over here is really clean. I probably won't need to do anything on this side. This is the stuff I'm using. It works great. I'm using it fully concentrated, and I just spray it on there, scrape with a chisel and a wire brush, rinse it off with some water, and just do a few rounds of that, and it worked amazing. You couldn't even see this rivet before. It was just so covered in grease. And look at that, that's bare steel and the factory paint. I still need to do some grinding over here, but I just wanted to get a lot of the grease off so it wasn't clogging up the wheel. So this stuff worked amazing. Apparently 03 and 04 models have a larger collar, I guess, on the stud on your lower control arm. And if you order new lower control arm mounts from Rock Auto, they don't work. There's that one. That's the one I got from Rock Auto. And here's the other one. And as you can see, this hole is much bigger, and that won't fit over it. So I ordered some other ones from eBay. We'll see what happens. If they're junk, I might just put these on for now and swap them out later. Alright, so my camera ran out of storage again, and I wasn't able to get footage of drilling the holes for the dowel pins on the Crown Vic, but I will show you guys what I was able to film. So I've got the sleeves installed. I've got 2 here, 2 there. That took a long time. I was using some step bits from Harbor Freight. Here's the part number, 69068. And they kept going bad right at the 1-inch mark. So I would have to take a die grinder and just round the hole out a little bit more until I could go up to the next step. I've got those in. And the way I got everything installed was we just mounted the Crown Vic up in the alignment holes that we drilled and basically just marked with a marker where those sleeves go, just because everything was because my frame was bent and that pin was kind of corroded. I just didn't really have a good way to measure everything, so we welded those two sleeves in, mounted the Crown Vic up, straightened the frame with the porta power, and then drilled these holes and welded these in. So right now I am working on making my engine mounts, my boxing plates for the frame, and then I'm also right here I need to weld sort of a box plate on this one side because this side over here is fully welded, and then on that side I need to make boxing plates for both sides just because it didn't touch on both sides. This side had sort of a lip that I trimmed down a little bit to make it fit. So I've got my boxing plates made. I'm using 3/16 steel, and I basically just put a piece of cardboard on the frame and traced it and made it fit real nice, and then transfer that over to steel and cut it out. So these are the two main boxing plates for where the tubes go, and then these three are for the lower control arm mounts. On the passenger side, I trimmed the frame a little bit and the mounting plate kind of touches that. We just welded it there, so I only need one boxing plate for that. Got my engine painted. I'm going to do the valve covers later. I'm planning on doing an intake and a timing chain this summer, so I didn't paint that. Didn't paint the water pump or the timing cover just because I'm going to have to pull those. And then the oil pan isn't painted yet. I'm not sure if this front sump is going to work. I test fit it a little bit ago, and I have a 1/4 inch to maybe 1/2 inch of clearance. So I'm going to put it in there, see if it works, and if it doesn't, I'll have to go buy a rear sump pan. And right now I'm working on motor mounts. I'm using the factory engine perches. I've just I've clearanced this side to go around the Crown Vic sleeve, and same on this side, making some cardboard templates. And then I've got a plate right here that's just on the Crown Vic subframe, and I'm going to weld the perch to the plate. I cut this one a little bit high. As you can see, it sort of sits up a little bit, so I've got to figure that out. This one I've cut too low, so I need to trim that a little bit more and then make those filler plates. I'm going to use 3 bolts to hold this on instead of 1 on the top. One there and one there, just because I only have 1 down here and I want this to be as strong as possible. I also got my headers painted. Dave let me sandblast them at his shop, and then primered and painted those. And I have my tranny back from the tranny shop. I don't think I really mentioned this, but it was leaking from the torque converter. So, and I was given a new torque converter when I bought the truck. So I had them replace the torque converter, replace the filter, replace the front seal, and replace the pan gasket. Got the truck sitting on all 4 wheels. I picked up some Crown Vic wheels. These are 17s from a 06 or newer Vic. I bought a set of 4. I still need a set of wheel adapters for the rear. And then once we put the Mark 8 IRS in, then I'll put on Mustang hubs, I believe is what you use, to run the 5x4.5 pattern that the Crown Vic uses. Okay, so I have this one trimmed down and sitting on the plate now. And I cut that one and folded that edge down a little bit, so now it's touching as well. One important thing I want to point out is make sure you scribe a line around that one if you're going to cut both mounting ears off. Like this side, not so important because I still have 2 mounting holes, but this side I've got nothing. So I scribed a line there before I cut anything, just to make sure that I know exactly where the motor mount needs to sit. Check that out. I've got both of those cut out, and I've got this one cut out. Now I just need to spend a bunch of time with a grinder rounding all those edges, and I'll probably use a die grinder too to get those inside curves. Yeah. I went ahead and gave everything inside the frame where the boxing plates need to go a coat of POR 15. Got this side too. So now I'm just going to let that dry, and then we can weld the boxing plates on. So I figured I'd replace the cab mounts with some new polyurethane ones while I had the truck apart. And I knew I was going to have to replace the radiator support ones just because those are usually junk. But if you compare the factory rubber bushings and the new polyurethane ones, the polyurethane ones are a lot shorter. And I understand that they're supposed to be a little bit shorter just because rubber compresses a little bit and these don't really. But these are just a little bit too short. So I think I'm going to need to trim down this upper cab mount sleeve. They're stuck together right now. Because when I put them, when I assemble everything on the truck, this lower bushing is still loose and it's not tight. So it's not really doing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that down probably 1/8 to 1/4 inch, somewhere in there. I still got to measure first, but. So I gave this a quick coat of POR 15, got this cut down. Jack this back up a little bit. Slide this in. Drop her down. Put this bottom sleeve on. So, got my new bolt dropped in there. Just gonna put a socket on top. The lower sleeve is 7/8, and my new bolt from the hardware store is 5/8. I think the factory one is a little bit bigger. And voila, new cab mounts installed. Alright guys, so last night my buddy Joe came over and welded in my boxing plates right here and the boxing plates on the lower control arms. He didn't want to be filmed at all, but big thank you to Joe. I'm not really a good welder, so he helped out quite a bit. I also got my motor mounts put together. They're not the prettiest, but they're gonna hold. Definitely gonna need to do some grinding on this one to get a bolt in there, but it's time to coat everything with POR 15. I'm going to do 2 coats of that and then 2 top coats of Rust-Oleum satin black. So I just got a pint of it and some cheap paint brushes. I'm wearing some clothes I don't care about and some rubber gloves. Let's get started. Look at that, my frame is black. Dave approves. I think it turned out pretty good. Did 2 coats of POR 15 and then 2 coats of satin black Rust-Oleum. Alright, got my new lower control arm mounts from eBay. This hole is big enough. It's not as big as that one, but it'll work. Fits on the stud all the way. There we go. If you still have trouble finding them and can't get the right ones off eBay, I guess I would buy them from a Ford dealer. So next I need to cut this sleeve here and then rotate the bushing, because this is what controls my alignment. And when they're mounted on a Crown Vic, they're mounted at an angle, so you can move it like this. But since I'm putting it on my truck and we mounted it flat, that's why I need to rotate the bushing. Okay, well, we've got this clamped down to the workbench. I'm going to take the Sawzall and carefully cut through the top layer of steel. There's another layer that this bushing is attached to, and I'm just going to cut the top one, and then we'll punch it out and rotate the bushing. There we go. Alright, got it cut all the way. I'm just going to pry this a little bit with a screwdriver and tap it out. That came out really easy. Alright, perfect. I just need to orient it pretty straight and pound it back in. And it is that easy. I bought some wheel adapters so I can use the Crown Vic wheels. The truck is lug centric, and so are the wheel adapters. The Crown Vic wheels are hub centric, and I called around to a few shops and they all said it was alright to use the hub centric Crown Vic wheels with lug centric wheel adapters. So I'm not sure, but like those guys said it was okay. If this isn't right, please let me know in the comments. I'm also working on taking out this overload spring here. I'm not sure if that was factory or not, because I was told this truck was used to haul a horse trailer. And then it also had some air shocks and a weird brake thing that got removed. So if you know if that's factory, let me know. But I'm removing it. One of the U-bolts on the passenger side was broken, and I think this will help lower the truck just a little bit. Alright, well, time to bolt the Crown Vic in. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We've got the Crown Vic bolted in. I've got 3 of the main mounting bolts in. This one, we need to push that frame rail out a little bit. It popped back just a hair when I cut the brace off. And then I need to put those lower control arm bolts in, and then we can start bolting the engine in. That's going to do it for this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below. In the next episode, we're going to get the engine and trans installed. So please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.